Hello, everybody. Welcome to Marketing Communications. I apologies for this video being late. I actually took a couple of days here and fielded some requests from everybody, answered some questions, and I think it was a good opportunity for me to learn some things about what's happening in the system in Blackboard, and then also based on the feedback that you all have given me. I wanted to include that in this video so I could kind of communicate across the board to everyone the same message. So welcome. One of the things I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about myself and my history in marketing. I began my career primarily as a creative in the marketing field. Currently, I am still serving in that capacity. And effectively here, I worked in an ad agency. I went to a print marketing company and actually had the opportunity to start a creative, I guess, sub company within the print company for restaurant marketing specifically. And I learned a lot about design from there, the printing process as well. I also moved to another print company, Quad Graphics, which is more of it's actually like one of a global printer. So they specialize in magazines, newspapers, and things of that nature. They also do digital marketing there too. But in my capacity there, I kind of moved more into like a sales marketing role where I was creating content for sales teams, and this was global sales teams. And then I had a bigger focus on digital marketing in that point. Still doing hands-on creative work in graphic design. From that position, then I went to a nonprofit organization called the Society for Immunotherapy of Cancer. So up till this point, I've been in the advertising industry, the print industry, and then also within Quad Graphics, worked in printer control systems marketing. So that would technically be manufacturing, and then nonprofit healthcare at the latest or at the position that I was at before Midstate. And then so here in this position, it was not hands-on at all as far as the creative standpoint, but it was focused essentially on project management and marketing communications. So a lot of writing and project and basically providing graphic designers feedback on their designs, and then just getting them to provide revisions and checking of the accuracy of the revisions and so on and so forth, and working back and forth and distributing those marketing communication products to different internal teams within the society. And to my current role, which I've been here for 5 years, teaching part-time on a contractual basis, teaching marketing principles, teaching marketing communications, teaching Adobe Creative Design and Adobe Video Design. So for the most part, the past 3 years have been focused on just talking about marketing. Specifically, I do bring in some of my creative thought processes into when I talk about marketing. However, these classes that I've been primarily focused on for the past 3 years here at Midstate have been all specifically focused on communications for marketing and the principles of marketing, or the core foundation of the marketing career mindset, if you will, etc. I look at basically marketing as something that's integral to everything in life. Each person individually is a brand in my eyes. The way you dress as an individual represents your brand. Some people are, represent a gothic, brand. So they wear a lot of black, things like of that nature. When I say the word gothic, everyone has a picture of someone in their head who they knew of at one point in time who had that gothic style and that gothic image, that gothic identity. Or if I were to say someone who was a star or a star athlete, you can picture that person too. They wear a lot of sweats every day. They have running shoes. They are tall, fit, things of that nature. So you kind of get a sense of where I'm going with this, in that marketing is in everything, essentially. It's even in you. And so the way I approach it as well is every interaction that I have with a person, I know that I'm representing myself in my own personal brand. And so specifically in this world that we live in, where everything about your online presence represents you and your brand, everything in your waking life, real life presence represents you and your brand. So to it that whoever your employer is in the future, you will be representing their brand via your brand. So for example, at Midstate, when I'm outside of Midstate, I am still representing the culture and values of Midstate Technical College. Even though I'm just living my own normal life, still the values that I hold personally can be seen as a reflection of Midstate to others. So just the simple fact that I work at Midstate, I'm actually representing the Midstate brand. So more and more you're seeing these kinds of things probably in the news, that individuals in their personal life, the way they behave or the values or things that they do, right, in their personal life, may or may not have a positive or negative effect on them in their work life. So individuals that do a lot of volunteer work in the community, things of that nature, reflect their employer's brand well based on their personal brand behavior. Vice versa, if an individual is involved in less than appealing things in society, their negative view of their personal brand will reflect negatively on their employer. I would say keep this in mind as you move forward, because again, like I mentioned, a lot of things in the news, we've seen that people's professional positions have been affected based on their personal choices. So when you think about brand, think about that being something that is a reflection of you personally. And so when we talk about this class and our presence here, I want everybody to make sure that as you're writing emails, keeping them professional. As you're presenting yourself, present yourself in a way that is very thoughtful and professional. Keep in mind that personal brand, I think, take the opportunity while you're studying and learning about these things to put into practice these ideas. So then it becomes kind of second nature to you. So you don't really have to you don't really have to put a lot of thought into however you want to project your image as you move forward into the future. But right now, think consciously, basically, about this concept here. Now, when we look at different things that happen with companies, keep that in mind as well. A lot more and more, I think, like companies are being seen as these things that have personalities, right? So what is Apple's personality? Smart, innovative, young, easy to use, easy to work with, okay? These almost sound like qualities that an individual could have. The reason why we think of these things are because brands like Apple, brands like Chevy, brands like Ford have actually been marketing to us for generations. They've been marketing to our parents. They've been, since our parents were X age, teenagers, in some cases, our parents, like companies like Coca-Cola, right? Ford, Chevy. These brands have been marketing to us for generations, our whole entire lives. And that's an investment they've made in them, in their image, to be basically ingrained in us. So whenever I say Ford, there are people that have been purchasing Fords for generations in their family. If you tell if someone in the family that buys a lot of Fords or that buys only Fords and they're dedicated to this brand, If someone in that immediate family, let's just say, buys a Chevy, they're sort of looked at in a different way, right? If vice versa, if it's a Chevy family, they believe in Chevy, and it's just been ingrained in them that we buy Chevys here, and someone goes out and buys a Ford or Toyota or something like that within that immediate family, there's almost a stigma to it. And this is exactly what Ford and Chevy wants. They want to create a culture around their brands that appeal to certain pieces of the population so that generationally they'll continue to have customer generation after generation. Okay, think about that. Also, I wanted to talk about one-to-one feedback. So I've had a few video calls with people individually, and talking about different things, who they are, what they do for a living, what their future goals are for marketing, anything really. So I have basically open office hours 24/7. So what you can do is really just connect with me. We can set up a time to talk via Teams. Otherwise, I'm based out of the Wisconsin Rapids campus. I'm on the second floor, room A202B, and that's in the marketing suite. So, and I'd be happy to meet with anyone individually or via Microsoft Teams for throughout the course. So just wanted to bring that out there too. I just want you to know that you're not alone. You don't have to struggle with any of the materials in the class. And I'm very flexible. So if you run into any issues, whether personal or what have you, and you need to have a little extra time on an assignment, we can work together on that basically. And there's no worries there. Okay, so let's just talk about, as long as I know when to expect something, that's all that really matters to me. Let's see. Okay, there have been date issues. So I'll tell you kind of the background story here. So we've normally used Blackboard for the class, and we still do use Blackboard for the class. A new integration piece is McGraw-Hill. So McGraw-Hill is basically the book publisher, and right now they have a website that houses all of the book content. So there's no hard copy book in this class anymore. We're hosting that book online, okay, as well as the content and the work activities that the book provides. So what we have done from a technology side is we've taken that content from McGraw-Hill and kind of streamed it in to Blackboard. We've kind of tied both of those things together, so both of those software programs talk now, okay? So when you go into Blackboard and you open up, and actually it probably will help. You know what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to go ahead and walk us through it here visually. So I'm sharing my screen. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we are sharing sound. Let me pop this in here. Okay, so let me jump in. All right. Excuse me. All right. Here we go. All right, so Blackboard. Let me go ahead and re-sign in. Okay. So I'm jumping into this course here. So once you sign into Blackboard, click on that course, right? You're going to want to go to Learning Plans, and then under Learning Plan 1 here, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. You're going to see all of the different pieces of content for the learning plan, okay? So you can see here, here's the date issue. We have, it says June, the due date for this marketing overview reading assignment is June 7th. This is a flaw. So what I have to do actually is work with McGraw-Hill to figure out why some of this content, like here, October 24th due date for the adaptive learning assignment, is not updating the due date in comparison to the reading material. What I'm finding here is that things that are not updating the dates are either reading materials or homework assignments. However, these application-based activities and so on and so on, these other pieces are updating the dates. So what I'm saying to everyone and what I'd like to communicate to you now, across the board, is that all of the due dates for everything will fall 1 week after they're assigned. So October 16th was our first day of class Monday. So what we want to do is turn in all of the materials before midnight on October 24th. That is this coming Monday, okay? Now, I made a note of this outside here. When you go into learning plans, I make a note of this as a reminder to say that all reading and assignments are due before midnight on October 20th. Oh, what was I saying? 24th. It's 23rd, October 23rd. Okay. If you need an extra day or so, just let me know. We can figure something out, but just know that due date assignments, if you don't want to email me back and forth to talk about a date, to change a due date on something, just know that it'll be that following Monday. So that's why I have this note out here in Learning Plan 1. And definitely sorry for the confusion here. I'm going to have to work with a representative from McGraw-Hill to figure that out. Again, this is the first semester that we've had this integration, so it's a little bit, it's got its kind of bugs. So I definitely appreciate everyone's patience as we work through that. I think we all had this issue and concern before. I definitely answered a lot of emails and had several video calls in regard to that issue. So just know 1 week from the day it's assigned, that's when it's due before midnight, Monday before midnight. Okay. Another piece too is that, okay, there were some questions about in what order to go through these assignments. You want to go from top to bottom because basically in part 1, this reading assignment here for marketing overview, it is going to give you the information you need to complete this adaptive learning assignment, okay? So then you'll go on and on. So value creation, this reading assignment is going to pertain to this adaptive learning assignment for value creation. And then this homework piece for it, et cetera, okay? So when you work from the top down, that's going to be the best way to make sure that you have a full understanding of what you need to complete the assignments as you go. So just work top to bottom in that, and you'll have everything you need to go to the next step. Let's see. One other thing too is that when you go into these assignments, they will, some of them will be like timed, like they're going to give you like an estimated duration time. And so, for instance, this is kind of like something that probably is like a terminology thing. So duration, 18 minutes, is estimated that in 18 minutes, one would be able to complete this entire overview of marketing adaptive learning assignment. And there are 10 concepts involved in this, okay? 10 concepts. So each concept has a subset of questions that speak to the concept to confirm that the understanding of the concept on your end is 100% good, right? So what you're going to want to do is start questions and then kind of hit got it and okay. So up here, you're going to see the 0 of 10 concepts completed. As you go through these multiple choice questions, this bar is going to be completed. So you're not going to complete concept 1 until you answer not one question, but several questions. It might be 5, it might be 10. So for you to understand how long it's going to take you to get through concepts, or I would call them like sections, 1 through 10, You're going to want to pay attention to that estimated time duration that you saw in the beginning of the assignment when you walked into it. So that could give you a good understanding of, okay, how much time is it going to take for me to complete this? Yeah, because let's just say, you come home from class or something and you're like, okay, well, how much time, can I go out to dinner tonight, or do I have, 40 minutes of class and that's going to run into my gym time or something like that afterward, right? So it's going to help you schedule your time out that way. And I know there were some concerns with folks about that, so I wanted to make sure I spoke to all of you on that. And once if you have some time to tackle a little bit of these concepts, say you can't complete all 10 at once, you want to go to like, you can only have time for like 5 or something. Once you get through however many you can exit the assignment by clicking on this button up the top here, and you will not actually like lose the progress that you made. It says you'll be able to pick up where you left off when you hit exit assignment again. So you click that and you're good to go. I can see, student activity here, how many students have started, submitted, or in progress. So the folks that are in progress, those are the folks that started a little bit and jumped out, okay, and then they're going to come back in. So I won't hover over to show like the names of everyone, since this video recording is going to be accessible to everybody, but just so you know that you can jump in and out and do that. All right. Let me just see if I got everything. Oh, I had another question from several. Let me jump into Blackboard's main screen. Actually, I could probably go here. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. So I had other questions here under learning plans. Some people wanted to see like the full schedule of like the entire semester, 8 weeks. So I do have that. I'm actually just going to allow you all to just send me a message if you want to see all of learning plans from beginning to end here, because I have them. They're just invisible right now to students because of basically week after week, we don't want everyone to get overwhelmed and say, oh, I have to do this all like right away or anything like that. We want to make sure that you're like pacing yourself and absorbing the material in a slow and reasonable way, right? Because it's just better that way. We don't want to like overwhelm you. However, there are some people that want to work ahead. They might have a lighter class load and they just want to knock this out ahead of time, or things of that nature. So that's just the only example there. I'm sure there's tons of other examples. I just can't think of, everyone has different circumstances in life. If you want to see everything all at once, I have a document that I can share that shows everything all at once. So all of these folders would be expanded, and then you can see every single assignment all at once. You'll be able to see it, but you won't be able to actually access it because these are non-accessible until week 2, week 3, week 4, etc. Okay. If you want them to be accessible, and if enough people say that they want this stuff to be accessible, then I will just release everything at once. It's not ideal, but it is there if the majority of you are persistent enough to kind of request that. And I'll see what I can do there. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. I just want to give a little bit of a heads up that this material here, what McGraw-Hill provides us is effectively examples of businesses so around concepts. Okay, so what I am doing as far as with these lectures is using other examples of other businesses. Okay, sorry about that. Had a little dog barking situation I had to take care of. Where I left off was basically McGraw-Hill has sample businesses that they cover. in the material. This is to provide examples around like certain marketing concepts. And so my presentations supplement or kind of run parallel. So the concepts are the same, but the business examples are different. So different business examples. So for instance, I might talk about Amazon around the concept of value or technological advancement, and McGraw-Hill might talk about Airbnb and value and technological advancement. The idea here is that what you want to take away is the marketing idea and concepts around technological advancement and what those steps are in that, but not necessarily, whatever company it's talking about. Now, when you talk about different companies, Airbnb is essentially like a housing provider. And then so they're in that industry. Amazon is involved with logistics, so that's a different industry. So two different industries, but one concept. So this is really designed to show you that these concepts are very much universal within all different industries. It's not just one particular industry. So the content that you read are going to be related to these, directly related to the lectures. They're just not going to be exact. And then the lectures will kind of dig deeper and into some of those ideas. So with that, let us get started here. I'll go see if I can reshare this here. Here we go. All right. Okay. And so any of these PowerPoint presentations that I have here, I'm happy to share with you all as well. So if you'd like them, let me know. Otherwise, you could, rewatch this recording if you like, etc. So the marketing environment, we're going to talk about just marketing at a high level and how marketing actually is affected by different aspects of our environment as society and as a collective. So right off the bat, we're going to talk really about the social impact, how social changes within society affect marketing, demographic changes, so age groups, different generations, and how they have been impacted by society will affect the marketing and how marketing is actually done with companies, and so on and so forth. Ethnic differences as well, economic differences. So some, even talking about economic recessions, depressions, things of that nature, inflation are all aspects of what industries are affected by these different things, and what industries are not, because there are industries that are not affected by economic circumstances such as these, and also political factors and competitive factors as well. Okay, so there are two things here that basically are determinants as to how businesses really market. So there are variables known as controllable variables and uncontrollable variables, and essentially the only difference between these two is uncontrollable variables are variables in which businesses don't have any control over the market. So a big one for that is COVID-19. Excuse me, I want to turn this fan on. The big one was COVID-19. That was the original, and this never happened in any of our lifetimes. I don't even believe it happened in any of our parents' or grandparents' lifetimes, but a pandemic, maybe our grandparents, a pandemic of this proportion having such a huge impact across, well, maybe not the world, it was something that's totally uncontrollable. It wasn't controllable by any of us, any businesses. However, it had a huge effect on marketing. What businesses survived, what businesses did not survive. There are still impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic to this day when it comes to businesses and marketing. Some businesses, are just thriving because of this, and some are not. Now, there's controllable variables as well. Now, that's where we talk about marketing and advertising and those types of things. We talk about pricing, we talk about product placement, we talk about those different aspects. Those are things that each individual business has total control over. And so that is the variable that we talk about there. So when we talk about this stuff, marketing is not only like a commercial or how something looks or how something communicates or, things of that nature. Marketing, probably one of the more important parts about it, beyond the aesthetics of a product and its usefulness, is the price of the product. It's also where the product is positioned to be sold. It's also the ease of access to the product, things like that. It's is the product being marketed to the correct audience? So these are factors as well. And like I said, the uncontrollable variables too is the environment such that as far as like Microsoft and Zoom and these other companies such as this, is the environment such that these are the only ways to communicate or collaborate with different teams across the industry, different industries in corporate America during a pandemic where everyone is kind of hunkered down inside and kind of how do you say it, just kind of separated from each other, social distanced. So Midstate kind of went through this as well, and during a campaign, what we had done was looked to our offering to students and said, what are students looking for right now during this time of uncertainty, to get them to understand that Midstate is here for them, and we just want to make sure that you have all the choices possible to find the educational solution to fit your needs, right? So this is a commercial that we put together, and this is Midstate's response to the uncontrollable variable of the pandemic.
Experience choice at Midstate Technical College. Experience your choice of small in-person classes, online classes, innovative technology class options, or your choice of any combination to fit your needs. You can also choose to get started here and finish at a 4-year, or with an associate degree in one of our 60 in-demand programs. Experience choice at Midstate Technical College. Get started at mstc.edu. Experience.
So all of our internal sales teams basically said our students or our potential students, our adult learners, because we have a big demographic at Midstate. We go from 17, 18-year-olds right out of high school all the way to like 65-year-olds plus that want to take continuing education classes, like sewing, painting, things like that. So we have a huge, wide audience. And so really what we wanted to communicate was choice. We have a lot of choices. Midstate can provide those choices that are a good fit for you. So whether you want to go to a transfer university, you want to further your career with more professional development opportunities, if you want to achieve these goals in small in-person classes, online classes, or what innovative technology class options means as hybrid classes. So I'm not sure if any of you have taken these types of classes, but it's a class where an instructor is on location at one campus, and then the content is then streamed to all 4 campuses in specific rooms on those campuses. And what will happen was 1 week, let's just say, for instance, the instructor will be at Wisconsin Rapids campus, and then the next week they'll be in Stevens Point, and then the next week they'll be in Adams, the next week they'll be in Marshville, and they'll kind of rotate between the different campuses while simultaneously streaming to all the different same rooms that they'll be located in the different campuses as well. Okay, so that's what that means there. So that's just an example of how that was
Experience choice.
Okay. So there's also aspects of the current and potential customers within marketing. So I wanted to cover credit cards and how there are general benefits to a product like a credit card. Could be general benefits to a car, right? Go from A to B, things like that. These are general benefits across each and every credit card that are very much seamlessly consistent, I would say, right? If you have a Visa card, if you have a MasterCard, if you have an American Express, you're going to have all of these benefits, and not necessarily all benefits because there's an annual fee on some of these, right? So you're going to generally have an annual fee. You're going to generally have an interest rate associated with your spending on the card. You're going to have an amount of cash back due to how much you spend on this card in some instances, or how you spend on this card in some instances. You're going to have typically a zero interest promotional length. So if I have a balance on a Visa card, I might get a direct mail piece from a competitor to Visa like MasterCard to say, hey, transfer your balance over to us and get 0% interest for the first year, okay, year and a half, or however long they give you. Typically it's a year. Okay, so those are offerings that are common amongst credit cards. There's also identity theft protection. So in recent years, as identity theft has become something that in society, right, like we said, different societal factors will have an effect on companies and businesses and marketing angles. That is, identity theft has become something so big that it has become a general credit card benefit across the board in the credit card industry. Where at one point in time, maybe it was only Visa that offered this, or maybe it was only American Express, something of that nature. So that's something that in time, it went from a controllable value in marketing to an uncontrollable instance in marketing, right? So now that in society, identity theft has become something that's so common and actually affects a lot of people, and word is spread about that, and there is a lot of fear about that. It's become uncontrollable. Therefore, these companies have had to adjust to this uncontrollable social ill. 24/7 customer service, something again that is a general credit card benefit. So there are different factors that affect the purchasing decisions of consumers for these different products. Okay, so like when you look at a credit card, it's a very basic thing, but credit card companies now have to differentiate themselves from one another to appeal to different cultural classes, different income classes, different generations. So that's kind of the idea. That's where we go from these basic benefits that are kind of built in the box of these products to something that's a little bit more competitive and niche, if you will. Niche being something that it appeals to a specific audience, and it's just it's very tailored to a specific audience, okay, or a specific user. Okay. So in the example of credit cards, to go from a current customer to becoming something that is appealing to a potential customer, what credit cards want to do is look at different demographics. So in this example that you're seeing, we're showing demographics broken out into age. Now, demographics as far as age is very common. It's kind of like the first thing everyone thinks of in marketing when you're talking about appealing to different demographics. But like I said earlier, there are other things as well, like political leanings, like ethnicity, geographic location, um, um, family size, single, in a relationship, married. These are all different qualities of people that determines what their buying positions might be. Okay, so if I'm a single person and I have an income of a middle class family, okay, my buying choices are going to be that of more probably luxury items. Okay, so I'm going to look for things like jewelry. I'm going to look for things like name brand clothing. I'm going to look for things like name brand shoes, things that are, things that are a little bit extra from the average. When I'm married, and let's say I have a couple of children, my buying decisions are going to be effective based on um, um, my other primary responsibilities in life. So for me, the importance of name brand is diminished because I need to take my, let's just say they're equal incomes between the single person and the married person with a family. I'm going to be spreading that money across to my family. So I'm not going to be focused on getting name brand stuff for myself. So I'm going to be focused on maybe getting name brand stuff for my kids. So if I'm a shoe company, let's just say, I'm going to be marketing to that parent with a lower price, but a brand that is seen by the market as something that's a little bit more higher end. Okay, so I might do that. Now there are some brands that don't do that. Let's say like Louis Vuitton or something like that. You don't see Louis Vuitton selling kids shoes. At least I don't see any marketing for that necessarily. And so they've made the decision in the market to say, well, we're going to put all our eggs in that, either very wealthy person or single higher income person. That's who we're going to, those, that's our demographic. This goes beyond age. Okay, a single unmarried person can be in the 35 to 54 range, or they could also be in the 18 to 24 range as far as when you're talking to age. But you can see that their life position, life path, sometimes can have a higher impact on their buying decision than simply just their age. Okay, so for the purposes of this example, we're just talking age here. Okay, so let's just say we're a credit card. 18 to 24, what would our 18 to 24 range of folks be interested in? Well, technology offerings. How easy is the app to use for the credit card? Can I see my balance right away? Can I order a new credit card if I lose it? Things of that nature. Those are the kinds of things that an 18 to 24-year-old would be thinking about when they're trying to figure out whether to buy a Visa, MasterCard, etc., right? Just one example. 25 to 34-year-old range. These individuals are probably a little more, well traveled and so on and so forth. They might be interested in the airline miles and the travel rewards. They might have a young family at this age range. So they might be that married couple, right? So those are the things that they might be interested in, the rewards they're getting for making those spending decisions, but by using the card. So that might cover that demographic. 35 to 54. This is generally seen as all the general benefits that cover this age range. This is according to chapter 6 in the book. 55 plus, they're going to be wanting ease of use, benefits, travel benefits, kind of very similar to 35 or 34 year olds, but also they'll prefer like to have online and chat support, because these individuals probably don't have very much comfort in doing chat bots or talking with support staff through the internet. Okay, these are the 55 plus people. Okay. Let me just make sure. So some of the things that affect marketing as well are the innovations like in society, how consumers are how basically future customers for these brands are consuming content, where they're getting their ads and information about products. So with social media, there's a huge amount of word of mouth influencer marketing. So the larger the influencer is as far as audience, whether they have a YouTube channel that's super popular, they are a celebrity that has a very constant social media presence out there that's very popular. They might be asked by certain brands based on the target demographic that those brands are wanting to appeal to actually promote the product that these brands are wanting to sell. So I'll give an example kind of for my mom, actually. She follows a gardener on Instagram, and this gardener person has a huge following, has a lot of great ideas for her garden, and she shares Instagram photos with her audience. She has a YouTube channel, Facebook, but she promotes different brands that she uses for her garden and her gardening ideas. Now, are these ideas coming from her, or is she being approached by brands to actually use their products within her videos to implement in her garden so she can inadvertently be advertising that product to her following? I'm not entirely sure. I think both. I think a little bit of both. I think that in some cases, this person is discovering new products out there and sharing those with her audience. But in other cases, these innovative products potentially as part of their marketing rollout, which we'll talk about how new products are rolled out into the market through test markets and everything. These companies might be reaching out to her individually to say, hey, we've got this new product and we're starting to roll it out. We're kind of doing some marketing testing right now to see if it's going to catch on with the audience that we're going for. Your audience is the perfect audience that we are looking to attract with our product. Would you be willing to feature some videos of the product so we can see how many sales we get within this demographic before we do a full product launch on the rest of the market? So you'll see as we learn later on that there's a lot of market testing that products do. Okay. And that's just taking a specific geographic region, and products are created and made to be offered and sold in these specific regions as a test to see if it catches on and how well it does before they expand the region of the offering of this product. Okay. So, with the decline of cable television and this type of traditional advertising, we have an investment boost in social media advertising. So since 2021, there was a 20.9% investment boost in social media. 80% of large to medium-sized companies have made the investment to increase their social media presence. Marketers are expected to continue to boost the social media investment over the next 5 years. Videos posted on social media, they are becoming the new normal for marketing brands. Today, more than 500 million hours of videos are watched on YouTube each day. And half of all the people that watch over an hour of the video are on Facebook or YouTube. And that is every week. So there's a lot of content being consumed. And this is it's a fascinating stat to me. I'm sure it's not a huge surprise to everyone else because I've come from pre-digital era, which was like middle school for me. And so I remember a time. More video content has been uploaded to social media over the past 30 days. This was, back in 2021, which this number is probably higher, than major US TV networks have created over the past 30 years. That's kind of a mind blower for me. So again, it's sort of an uncontrollable instance in marketing, right? When marketers see these numbers, it's out of their control how popular and user-friendly technology and social media is becoming and how consumable it is. They've had no choice but to adjust. And those that have refused to adjust have fallen by the wayside and have fallen behind in the game. So just something to keep in mind. Now, you ask yourself, how does artificial intelligence affect marketing nowadays? Where's that gonna take things 30 years from now? You look at more video being uploaded in the past 30 days than TV networks posted in 30 have created in the 30 years. Well, what's going to happen when AI is introduced to something like that? How is that going to affect the numbers? How much content on social media is going to be created as far as video content by use of AI? So thinking about it that way, it's just something to consider. So this is an uncontrollable variable here. And video content, Midstate in particular is finding, and other companies that I've worked with, is the most engaging piece of content out there on social media. Now, is that video content the most polished video content ever, right? Is it studio quality content? Not necessarily anymore. I think that with the abundance and the over perfection and over polished look of video content over this TV network past 30 years, I see that there is a type of skepticism in the market as far as the authenticity of that content. Is it too scripted? Is this person that's delivering this message to me, this content to me, genuinely giving me this information, or is this person just a mouthpiece for a corporate brand behind the scenes, right? Pulling the strings. So how do you battle against a sort of distrust or mistrust of an audience on social media watching a video to make them feel that this is more of an authentic message than it is a scripted message? And especially as we move forward with AI and how AI can produce content that's not necessarily real but looks hyper realistic and actually real, how do we make the differentiation there? How do brands compete in the market to make themselves look more authentic? It's going to be less polished and it's going to be more on the grungy side, or not necessarily grungy side, but more self-produced side, small budget produced side. Small budget by meaning video commercials that look like they were shot on a basic iPhone, a generation 10 or something like that, right? If the content is good enough and consumable enough and desired enough, and the quality is not production studio quality, the acceptance of it and the effectiveness of it is going to be greater. And this is sort of like an instinct that I have as I see have seen the pendulum swing back and forth within marketing due to what might be happening in society at the time. You can look to history to predict the future, and a lot has happened in history. So you can kind of predict the future based on what the dichotomy has been between the advertising and the societal happenings in the past. And what I can tell you is that probably once every 20, 30 years, and then this cycle could be speeding up just because of the spread of information that we have so moving so much faster, and the innovation of technology so much faster, is that the swing of the pendulum between ideas such as this will become more and more common and faster. Okay. So just a little bit of food for thought here. Okay. So different strategies for social media video. There's different aspects of this. So you can see that there's a lot of videos that go viral based on whatever's happening in society. So there might be a certain opinion leaders within society that might have a bigger sort of reach for their message just based on who they are as a celebrity. That could increase the effectiveness of social media marketing and advertising today. So like my example of that gardener on Instagram that my mother followed, right? That individual is an opinion leader. And so if they have that social status, then one strategy for an organization might be to use her platform to reach their target audience. Okay. Different individual qualities of people, such as gender, men and women will, be attracted to different types of content. So if there's content out there that is attractive and appeals mostly to men, then naturally brands will use that social media influencer, social media channel, or channels within these, male-focused content realms to sell their male-focused content male-focused products. And then vice versa with female, etc., and any other gender types. Okay. Life cycle as well. So people recently divorced, they watch certain types of content online. How do I get back into the dating market? How do I get through this divorce? I'm super depressed and sad. Things like that. So they're going to have videos out there. There's going to be influencers out there, specifically on YouTube. They're probably going to have social media presences as well. I personally think YouTube is social media. I know it is. And, to me, the future of social media is YouTube based. But that's, kind of an instinct of mine. But again, folks are going to be looking at that stuff, right? And if a brand wants to appeal to that recently divorced person, if that brand wants to appeal to that single person, right, they're going to be setting their marketing and advertising settings with YouTube to show up in the YouTube videos for when those commercials, those ads come up. This also can go for retargeting ads. So like a retargeting ad would be an ad that you would see on a website that you visit. That'll pop up on the side or at the top of the website that you visit, or a news article website that you go to. If I'm an individual that's single, right, and I have a certain amount of income, of course they have all my data about my demographics, how old I am, where I was born, do I have kids or not, how much money do I make, what are some of my interests. You can capture that from Facebook. You can capture that from all these different things, and all these all this information is available to companies at a price, and that can be priceless. So all of that content being in my cache as I'm viewing a website, If I'm single and I have in the past expressed interest in Louis Vuitton or Christian Louboutin clothing products. I've searched up the websites. I have some cash from that website search or from Amazon, and I go to a news article website. I'm just wanting to see what's going on in the world as far as other countries and global politics. I'll see an ad for Louboutin in the right corner, right? Or something like that. That's retargeting. And so that's something that my life cycle, my specific life cycle, being single, childless, or married, recently divorced, etc., would be a factor in me whether or not I saw that ad or not. And this is actually even more intense when you go to Facebook, too, because Facebook has a lot more control over how they sell individual organizations, advertising, and the specificity of it. I can tell you that at Midstate, as a social media marketer, I target very specifically aspects of people's life on Facebook for advertising, whether it be age group, if they're parents of 18 to 24-year-olds, if they're parents of 17 to 18-year-olds. There are ways to getting around that, and actually, if you wanted to target someone that's under the age of 18, which it's illegal to actually specifically on Facebook, I don't know if it's illegal, but they don't allow you to target people with advertising that are younger than 18, any kind of advertising. Younger than 18, you can't specifically target this group. There is a concept of marketing where an influencer to a person's buying decision doesn't necessarily have to be someone like a Kim Kardashian or someone that famous with that type of clout and name recognition. An influencer to a buyer or a potential buyer could also be their parent. Okay, an influencer could also be the grandparent. So how would you target someone with advertising if you can't before they're the age of 18 and you wanted to target someone who is younger than 18? Well, you would actually influence their parent, who then has more of buying power for their child, okay? So there are things that marketers do to, and concepts, like this influencer concept. It doesn't have to be a famous person. It can be a parent. Like, this is the idea here. So this is something to keep in mind as you move forward with your own marketing, or just for you to expand your mind to think about these things in a very outside of the box way. Okay. There's also psychological factors as well when you're creating content in social media. So these are perceptions of, for instance, like a perception of how you view the world. Okay, like how would a single person view the world nowadays with everything going on? How would a person that's younger than 18 view, the world and what's going on at this time? Think about how someone would view the world as far as their perception, like me, who didn't know about the internet till middle school, versus someone who has grown up with an iPhone in their hand. I remember when iPhone came out, I was actually amazed that you could go on the internet with a phone that wasn't connected to the wall. Okay. So think about that, like the perception of people and how, let's just say, they accept new technology, right? To one generation of people, innovations of technology might seem very invasive to your privacy. But to other generations, well, maybe they grew up with this understanding that information is out there and so accessible that it's not something that they really even worry about. So if your product is by nature exposes individuals to a little bit of risk of their data, being shared with other businesses, you might target one demographic that has this psychological perception of the world rather than another demographic that has another psychological perception of the world. So this is kind of where you can see the importance of understanding your audience when it comes to marketing. It's not all about just making something look pretty and good. There is a huge amount of strategies behind some of this stuff, okay? Motivation as well for psychological. So there are safety needs, social needs, self-esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. Just an example, like self-esteem needs, like, okay, do I psychologically need to drive a Lamborghini to have good self-esteem about myself? Okay, if the masses and in the markets, if Lamborghini is getting less sales, right, to a certain demographic, well, how can we influence this demographic to think that they will have a higher level of self-esteem if they drive Lamborghini? There's a brand that does this pretty well, in fact, as well. It's not necessarily maybe self-esteem, but it's being part of a social need. It's being part of a community, and that's Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson has done an amazing job of convincing the motorcycle riders out there that if they ride a Harley, they're part of this family. They are part of this, and this is an entirely psychological approach to their marketing. They've built an entire culture around this brand. And like I was kind of mentioning earlier, right, between the Ford and the Chevy generational, passing down of these values and following these brands. And this is where these brands' marketing money and dollars go to. They're not looking to just sell a Harley Davidson motorcycle. They're looking to sell the idea that you are part of the Harley Davidson family. You have a certain social status. You are the bad boy. You are the bad girl. You have this rebel persona if you ride on a Harley Davidson motorcycle. And if you don't ride on a Harley Davidson motorcycle, you're not it. You're not that. Okay, you're not that idea. So they play off of this self-esteem, right, in this way. Safety needs as well. So if you think about another psychological aspect of marketing, if someone doesn't have a feeling of safety and stability, let's just say, in their life, right, they're not gonna, if as far as like financial income or environment, etc., they're not going to really be affected by whether or not I ride on a Harley or not, maybe not necessarily even whether or not I have a motorcycle. Okay, their buying decisions is based on what are my, my basic needs or my basic needs met. And if that is being challenged, then those potential buyers are not even in the market to even think about whether or not they ride a Harley or a Yamaha or a Kawasaki and this type of stuff. Okay. So those are all things that influence this buying behavior. All right. Okay, let's move on here. So demographic factors and buyer behavior too, rural versus urban, as far as populations and where people are where people primarily reside, and the differences between their buying decisions based on either way, right? So, let's just say, for an example, a really quick one, cars. So appealing to the person or the more rural populations would be where our car advertisers were want to primarily go. In urban population centers, the way such that our demographic targeting for our advertising and marketing is concerned. less than so. In urban scenarios, you can do a lot of walking. There's public transportation, and so on and so on. Biking is popular. Actually, even cities are redesigning themselves to allow bike lanes, etc. It's probably a lot more common for yours as far as the generation than mine, but it's normalized, right? And I believe it is actually normal too to have that. It just makes a lot of sense. So these types of factors. So, if I were within the, let's call it transportation industry, and I was a car company, I'd go for the rural audience to market to. If I was like a bike, if I was a bike company or something of that nature, or even shoes, I'd look towards the more urban markets. Now, this data is interesting. That when this was put together, and this was in 2020, rural areas had posted their first ever net loss of population in 2012. So when I put this together in 2020, this data says that rural areas had their first ever loss of population in 2012. So where is that? Is that still going to go that direction, or is it going to change because of that pandemic in 2020? Okay, if rural population started losing in 2012, then 2020 hits, right? We had that uncontrollable instance of COVID-19, the more normalization of remote work. Well, now that pendulum might be swinging. And actually, there are reports in the news of cities like San Francisco having a mass exodus of people from that urban center of San Francisco. And there's there's a lot of ideas that they're not sure what's going to happen with San Francisco as far as the city, because the foot traffic is much less now because people are moving out of that city, or working remote, still, based in that city, but working remote, so they're not on foot going to restaurants and things like that in the city itself. So, what is happening? How is that uncontrollable instance affecting all of these things? And you're talking only a little over 10-year period, 2023 now, so that's 11 years. So you can see that, like I was talking about earlier, sometimes, and it seems, with things like AI and all of that, it seems that the pendulum is actually swinging faster and faster and faster. There could be some kind of innovation in the urban side of the populations and in our cities that, make things just come back around full circle. Do I know what that is? No, I don't think anyone does. But I think the best you can do is be some kind of a futurist and have a very, very educated guess and good instinct on things like that. Another demographic factor could be is the singles thing. So more and more Americans are not getting married and choosing not to have children until later in life, if ever. So some of the questions that brings up is what is that doing to marketing now, and what brands are winning, right? With this news, there are brands out there that are asking these questions. How will this affect the purchasing decisions of these individuals? For example, companies that sell power tools, they might then start to sell and try to appeal equally to men and women. Usually power tools were marketed primarily to men, so everything had a very manly, masculine look and feel in all of their content and their advertising. Well, now it's going to, and this is already happening. You're seeing a lot more power tools and things being marketed to women, etc., and home furnishings as well. home furnishings, appealing more to men in its marketing and advertising, as well as women, where at one point in time it was very gender segregated as far as like how they marketed and things. But with this singles generation coming up, single individuals are playing both that male and female role within their household because they have to. They're one person, so they have to kind of play their masculine and feminine and balance their masculine and feminine roles individually. So thus, the marketing and companies are recognizing that, and that's where they're going with this. Oops, 1 second. I didn't want to go too far. So that brings us to generations. So there are some things that we know about these different generations. You can see here the numbers of each one. So there's 74 million baby boomers, 50 million Gen Xers, 83 million millennials, and 86 million Gen Zs. And then there's other generations too, which I'm not 100% familiar with right now. And I don't think we have the data enough yet to speak too much to that. But there you have it. A little bit about baby boomers. They are mostly currently retired. They focus on living healthy, currently active. So a lot of products that are sold to baby boomers, or a lot of products that are health-based, health-focused, things of this nature are marketed to baby boomers. Currently, they're focusing on living the good life, quote unquote, or in other words, experiencing a life of social abundance and adventure. Okay, so, and you can see this around the community as well. I think there's a billboard right off of 54 going into Rapids, and just billboards everywhere that you'll see of golden years, aged people doing active things. A lot of running, hiking, swimming, hang gliding, going on vacations, boating, things of this nature, right? Think about your prescription drug commercials. You're always seeing this baby boomer generation avatar, if you will, in the actors and actresses that are seen in these commercials, being active, being happy, being focused on experiencing a life and social abundance. This is why you see these things, because this is what these generations are doing. And this is how they make their buying decisions. They make their buying decisions based on these qualities that they hold. Okay, so for Generation X, some of these common things are this generation is focused on saving money. Saving money is a priority to this generation. They tend to do a significant amount of research before making a purchase. This goes into some marketing concepts out there. Basically, it really feeds to the internet and blogs. So there's a lot of, if someone is doing research on buying products, it would be smart of a company to write a blog out there to compare their product to other products, right? So if I'm on the market for a Ford Focus versus, I'm trying to think of the Chevy equivalent, Cobalt, let's just say. So Ford Focus is I think it's a 4-door sedan, smaller vehicle, a little bit energy efficient, right? Versus a Chevy Cobalt. I think they still have Cobalts, I'm not sure. But that's a 4-door sedan, also energy efficient. So basically almost the same car, right? Now, if I were a Chevy or Ford, I would have articles out there that someone could stumble onto as they're doing research between Chevy and Ford, to see which one, and that article would have content that was biased towards what company I was a part of. Okay, so as a Gen Xer, I would be out there saying in Google, Ford Focus versus Cobalt, what's better? Question mark, something of that nature in my search bar. Well, if I were Ford, I want to make sure that what comes up closer to the top of that search on Google is an article that essentially says Ford is better than Cobalt because X, Y, and Z reasons. Now, however that message is communicated could be very clever and artistic. If I come to an article like that and it straight up says this is from Ford, Ford is better than Chevy, boom, I'm gonna be a Gen Xer that's doing research that's like, this is totally biased. No way. I don't like this at all. I don't trust this. Click to the next one. No, it's gonna be a little more nuanced than that, a lot more nuanced than that. It's going to be an article from a writer that there's going to be no Ford logo branding on it whatsoever, right? It's not going to look like it's from Ford. They're going to have some things about Fords that's not as appealing, or everything is not perfect, right? Because we know that if something come across as too perfect, it's not authentic. So you kind of get where I'm going with this. If you have like 10 of these blogs across the internet, and this Gen Xer is stumbling onto 5 of these and not finding anything that's saying Cobalt is better than Ford that seems reputable and reasonable, they're going to be completely heavily influenced on that buying decision towards Ford because of the natural propensity to do research before making purchases. Okay. They are also Gen Xers, the first generation of dual career households. Okay, so the mother and father working. So they are the first generation of that is actually grew up with that. Roughly half Gen Xers are from divorced or separated parents. Okay, so that has an effect on their upbringing in some kind of way. What that is exactly, I guess time will really tell, because sometimes we can't learn things till several generations in to where we can look back and be like, oh yeah, that's why. And so that was the effect of that cause. And sometimes it takes time to figure that stuff out. But you can rest assured that there's a lot of marketing people that are uh, uh, they're trying to wrap their heads around this and coming up with all kinds of different ways to market to these individuals that are from divorced or separated parents. And they spent more time growing up without adult support than previous generations, which probably speaks a lot to their research mentality before making the purchase. And perhaps this generation growing up without the adult support than previous generations might be less influenced by their adult or generations previous, right? So maybe when you talk about influencer marketing, maybe the influencer marketing aspect to this generation works less, okay, than the influencer marketing to other generations in the future, or even ones from the past. Moving on to millennials. Older millennials have entered their 20 years of peak earning power. So this is a generation that is starting to peak and make more money. But the majority have an anxiety about money. Another aspect of the generation is the majority see success as being happy rather than having material prosperity. Okay, being happy, right? So this generation are idealistic and want to do their jobs well, but stay at one company for a lifelong career is not something that is common. This is different from previous generations. And this is due to uncontrollable variables as economic, social, and things of that nature. A vast majority that are buying homes have little knowledge of home maintenance. So what kind of industries can be born out of something like that? Handyman industries, or things like that. If I was a handyman or handy woman in a town somewhere, I'd be marketing to these millennials. I would figure out how to market to this demographic, because that is the demographic that needs that hands-on stuff that probably generations like the baby boomers and previous have a lot of experience in, because that's typically how they made their livings, right? And this is the first generation that has a relationship with modern technology such that we have currently nowadays. A little bit about Gen Z. So as far as it goes, there's 86 million of them. The most popular online platform for this generation is YouTube, followed by Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. So in that order, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. That could be a little bit different now, because at the time where I made this presentation in 2010, Snapchat was like actually becoming more popular. Now I'm seeing that becoming more popular. Everyone's asking me if I have one or not, in my own personal life. Granted, that's anecdotal, however, this is all about kind of feeling the markets as well. This is also a generation that's more conscious than most. Cautious, excuse me, read that wrong. This generation is more cautious generation. They've seen crisis in society, including recessions, financial crisis, terror threats, school shootings, and including the global pandemic. So considering like societal ills, this generation has seen it all and actually has grown up around it all. So they're very conscious, are cautious as far as like whether they make decisions. I think skepticism is healthy. I think that is a good thing. I mean, you can see that as far as like the research from Gen X through the anxiety of money with millennials to Gen Z. There's a common thing here of making financial decisions based on a lot of upfront research. So inbound marketing, or marketing that is tailored to people that are doing research prior to making a buying decision, has been a huge thing. I think it is getting bigger. So just something to think about. They tend to make more sensible career choices. Okay. And you are actually starting to see that. In fact, Mid-State, we are #1 in enrollments as of this year out of all 16 technical college systems, and we are up by a lot. And that is, my belief, is a result of sensible career choices of the younger generation, where they're looking at this market and saying, okay, well, we have AI out here. That stuff is actually writing content, writing press releases, writing scripts for commercials, doing a lot of stuff that is blue collar strong, blue collar focused. And so there's a little bit of uncertainty as far as where it's going to go, if jobs are going to be there in the blue collar sector. But the market is hurting for people that do HVAC work, plumbing work, construction, renewable energy installing, firefighting, police. They need more of those people, because the generations prior that were doing that kind of work are retiring, right? Changing their careers perhaps. So this generation is saying, well, maybe not so much something I'm super passionate about, but something that is going to keep me sustained for a long period of time and keep me competitive in the job market in the future. Okay. So that said, as far as like generations are concerned, what we did at Mid-State in 2021, we did an enrollment campaign that focused on these types of jobs. We wanted to show, now this is in contrast to the experience choice piece that I showed you. We wanted to really show that these different, more, let's just say, rugged type jobs, hands-on type jobs, things that are less kind of intellectual property type work, and more hands-on type work. So you'll see that in the jobs that we focus on here, like for instance, this firefighter student. You're seeing the fire truck. This guy's all decked out in his uniform. You know, he's putting in the grind physically day to day rather than these ideas and these I guess intellectual industry type jobs. So here's the one we have. Let me make sure my volume's good. Okay, cool.
Mid-State Technical College. Career skills first. Learn online or with small in-person class sizes and collaborative learning environments. Develop hands-on skills for your degree or the workforce. Earn a guaranteed transfer to over 20 four-year colleges and universities. Or get in, get out, and get working. And save money while you reach your goal. Make career skills your first choice at Mid-State Technical College. Get started at mstc.edu.
So the focus on skills here rather than choice, right? Post-pandemic, we focused choice. We focused on, hey, here's the choice. It was all very intellectual. We're here, we're showing a lot of these action scenes, a lot of this hands-on skills, these words that were chosen for the piece to sort of give that different angle, if you will, to appeal to younger generations, these Gen Zs that are, again, like I said earlier, making more sensible career choices. And, you know, we are seeing that again in the results at Mid-State, at the increase in these, the record-breaking enrollment numbers we have. And, you know, I definitely believe in the technical college. I think that that's the right way to go. Okay. So I did mention earlier economic factors as far as like influence of buying decisions of customers in marketing. So consumer income, right? Annual household income in the United States is approximately 60,000. Let's say 1% of workers with a high school education make over 100,000 per year. People with a bachelor's degree take home an average of 38% more than those with just a high school diploma. So if you were to create content to appeal from one demographic to the other, you would know how to communicate with them based on understanding that there is a demographic with just a high school diploma and demographic with a bachelor's degree. You would also understand that the income of those with a bachelor degree is higher typically than those with a high school diploma. So if you are trying to appeal to someone, or if you are selling a product that is higher in price, right? It's just super simple, but higher in price, you're going to want to craft that content to appeal to someone that might have that will have like a 4+ year education beyond a high school level. Whereas if you're selling a product that is less than, let's say, like luxury brand, if you will, you're going to want to craft your content to appeal to someone who is that of a high school education or potentially lower. Okay, so using different words, different sentence structures, and things of that nature. Those are kind of like sort of the differences there. Different images, perhaps as well, right? You might be selling a shoe product. Let's say it's a boot or something like this. In one region of the country, let's say urban region, your commercial that you're promoting your product there is going to have maybe different actors and actresses, different scripts that appeal to people within this urban geographic region compared to you selling the same product in the rural geographic region. And this is very possible because, like I mentioned earlier, as far as the viewership of YouTube versus the last 30 years of cable television viewership, we're seeing more views in 1 month than 30 on YouTube or social platforms than the past 30 years of cable. Not only that, but you can actually show a person within a 25-mile radius of, let's say, Milwaukee versus a person in a 25-mile radius of Wisconsin Rapids, a different commercial selling the same product, it might be worth the investment to pay an actor for one television spot and then hire another one for another television spot, if that makes sense, for those geographic regions, just to increase your appeal to the local population in these different areas. And again, whether it be factors of ethnicity, political leaning, income, whatever else we talked about, age, and in this case here, education level. Okay. Purchasing power. So this is another economic factor as well. Consumer income does not determine purchasing power. So very important. Just because I make a lot of money doesn't mean I have a lot of purchasing power, because I might have a lot of debt. So someone that has a higher income, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be interested in purchasing those luxury goods, because they might have a family. So again, like I said before, if I'm a single person with a average income 60,000, but I'm also a single person at this, a person of the same age that has 2 children, right? The person with 2 children has less purchasing power than the single person with the same salary. Now, that's not always true, because the person that's single with the same salary might have a bachelor's degree education, while the person that has 2 kids that's making 60,000 might have a high school diploma. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that the single person would have student loan debts, perhaps, unless they, got through school with their parents' money, etc. So there are a lot of different factors that that could determine purchasing power. So it's not as simple as the more I make, the more purchasing power I have. There's also different geographic regions as well. So cost of living and these types of things as well. So those are all factors too when it comes to marketing, not only to appeal to these different individuals in different areas, but how you're going to price your product as well. Price is a huge thing. So that is another principle that is included in basics of marketing there. So when income is high relative to the cost of living, like I said, people have more discretionary income. Okay. Consumers with high purchasing power can afford to spend money without jeopardizing their budget for necessities like food, housing, and utilities. So again, the people with higher purchasing power are those that brands that are more on the luxury side would want to be approaching and appealing themselves to. Consumers with high purchasing power can purchase higher price necessities. Okay, so it's that higher end toilet paper. It's that those high brand name socks, stuff like that. Another economic factor to contribute to marketer or buyer decisions is inflation. So the measure of the decrease in value of money. For example, 5% inflation means you will need to spend 5% more units of money than you did the year before. Okay. You hear a lot of that going on now. So that has effect. So there are some things that it doesn't have effect on, though, as far as from a purchaser standpoint. Okay. So if the cost increases on toilet paper or gas due to inflation, that doesn't necessarily mean that a buyer will not pay the price without thinking twice. However, industries like furniture and things of this nature, right? Purchasing furniture might be something the buyer does after inflation gets back to normal. So this is an uncontrollable factor that will affect the market. And this is not something that the business it has any control over sometimes. So at this next section here, I'm going to stop here and we will pick back up here with technology and innovation factors when it comes to buyer purchasing decisions. But we're going to talk about the steps that basically innovations go through in the market before they become normalized and accepted in the market. So there's certain things that happen in the beginning and in the middle of the process, and then towards the end when the market actually accepts this technology innovation, and then even other companies are actually born out of the innovation. So let me give you a quick example before I let you go. The iPhone. The iPhone was an innovation that was kind of spoken about in the beginning. So this is my first bullet here, is signals amidst the noise. So there's kind of a sign that something was happening, and it was going to sort of take over the market and be a disruptor, if you will. And then that's kind of when the iPhone first started coming into fruition. It was introduced into the market, and then slowly this signal amidst the noise grows, and then eventually then the change takes hold, which is part two. Then at this time, the older companies or older brands within the market will have to actually need to establish a foothold to try and squash this competition, this new technology that's kind of spreading and taking over. Then the inevitable transformation, organizations, with the iPhone example being, let's say Motorola, Samsung, things like that, have had to then begin to innovate their own products to sort of parody this Apple product. So they were almost forced into it. Even things like offering free data, rollover data, things like that. If one company starts to do that and then that change takes hold, other brands are forced to follow suit, whether or not they want to or not. It's just the market actually forces them based on this innovation and technology factor. And then eventually the adaptation to the new normal is finalized in every organization and moves forward with that. And then so this actually technology then, and this new one specifically, the iPhone creates multiple other industries out of it. So Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, things of that nature. Then the whole storm of apps, right? The spread of social media, and etc. So this is what we'll pick up on next time. And that should do it for today. Thanks so much, you guys.